Solve each equation and check the solution. So we have a problem here where we have two factors that are being multiplied together and we're getting a zero. So we're going to use the zero factor property to solve this problem. So remember that property states that a times b is equal to 0, then a is equal to 0, and b is equal to 0. In this case, we're going to end up with something like a times b times c is equal to 0. So we're going to get a is equal to 0, b is equal to 0, and c is equal to 0. So when you have something equal to 0, basically what you need to do is find all the factors on the left-hand side and set each of the factors equal to 0. So we look at the first set of numbers here, 5z plus 2. That's already factored completely. There's nothing else that we can factor from 5z plus 2. But if we look at z squared plus 3z plus 2, we can factor that. So because the coefficient in this second degree equation is a 1, I can use the x puzzle. So I'm looking for two numbers that add up to 3 and multiply to 2. So the number here, the 3 goes at the top, and then this 2 here goes at the bottom. So I'm going to use the numbers 2 and 1. 2 plus 1 is equal to 3, and 2 times 1 is equal to 2. So then we end up with 5z plus 2, because we couldn't factor anything out. And then this second degree equation, when we factor it, we get z plus 2 and then z plus 1 equal to 0. So now that we have it factored completely and we have it equal to 0, we have to set each of the factors equal to 0 and then solve for the variable. So 5z plus 2 equal to 0, z plus 2 equal to 0, and z plus 1 equal to 0. So when we solve for z here, we're subtracting 2 from both sides. We end up with 5z is equal to negative 2, and then we divide both sides by 5, so we get z is equal to negative 2/5. Here we have z plus 2, so we're going to subtract 2 from both sides, so we get z is equal to negative 2. And here we have z plus 1, so we're going to subtract 1 from each side, so we get z is equal to negative 1. So then the answer to this problem is z is equal to negative 1, z is equal to negative 2, and z is equal to negative 2/5. It asks us to check the solution, so when we're checking the solution, we have to plug in the negative 2/5 for all the z's and see if it equals to 0. So let's do that with the first question. So I'm going to take 5z plus 2 equal to 0, and I'm going to substitute this z with negative 2/5. So 5 times negative 2/5 plus 2 is equal to 0. So when we multiply this out, remember any number can be written as a fraction if we put it over 1. So I'm going to put this 5 over 1, and then we can use cross canceling. So this 5 is going to cancel with this 5, and then we end up with negative 2 plus 2 is equal to 0. And that's true. Negative 2 plus 2 is equal to 0. So if this factor here, when we plug in the negative 2/5, is equal to 0, then my whole answer is going to be equal to 0, because anything times 0 is equal to 0. And then you can do the same thing with z is equal to negative 2 and z is equal to negative 1.